Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you the long-anticipated top 10 worst buildings of 2019 in Tapped Out. So it took us a while, it's now March, but I finally got this video to you guys. So yes, so we're going to be going through what I think is the worst buildings of 2019, the top 10. We will have a few dishonorable mentions. Just want to say, I know that some of the lists are a bit controversial. Some people have disagreed. This one I've kind of actually, this is the second time I'm recording it, because I ended up changing my mind with a few of them, so we'll see. Maybe this is the right list. Hopefully you guys will agree with this one. Or agree with somewhat with it, or at least respect my decisions. But anyway, we'll get into a few dishonorable mentions first, and then we'll get into the list. So let's get started with the dishonorable mentions, the first of which being the Hall of Vice Presidents. So I do want to say I don't hate this building so much, and I don't hate a lot of the buildings that are on this list, on the kind of like the bottom half of the list. I think my biggest issue with this Hall of Vice Presidents is it's just really bland, and because of its blandness, I find it kind of a bit difficult to decorate, but I don't know. Plus, it was premium, and I kind of expect a bit more from some premium stuff. Yeah, I think it's just a bit ugly, a bit bland, a bit meh, but definitely not terrible. So that's my first dishonorable mentions. The second is the COE Champions Arena. I'll be honest, I kind of find this building a tad ugly, and I found it incredibly difficult to decorate. The E4 Convention Center, some people weren't happy with that. I didn't think it was that bad, but this one I did. Although it is free, it's just kind of ugly, it's kind of big, and it's a bit difficult to decorate, or at least I found that. I'm not sure what you guys think, but didn't quite make the list, but it definitely deserves a dishonorable mention, so yeah. Anyway, let's get into the list. Number 10 is Vander Sniff and Wifferly. Yeah, so bit of an odd one, I guess, this being on the list. This was a free building, but I found it quite ugly, and that's the main reason why it's number 10. I found it really very kind of ugly, very bland, very uninteresting, not difficult to decorate, and that's why it's not any higher. But I don't know, out of all the buildings we got from the Babies update, all the stores we got from the Babies update, this one kind of stood out as the store that was the least best. Like, there were so many cool little restaurants and stores that we got in that update that I really liked. Well, this one was just really odd and kind of ugly. So yeah, it's number 10, not too high, but I definitely found it a bit uninteresting. Anyway, number 9 is Frink's House. A residential building? What? Yeah, so in my top 10 buildings, of course, I gave a lot of praise to residential buildings. There was a lot of them I liked. My biggest issue with this one is it's scaled really weirdly, to the point where it doesn't feel right in my neighborhood. When I try and decorate it with the other houses, it just looks really odd. And that's my main reason. Add to the fact that it's also premium, so you kind of expect a level of quality. It felt a little, I mean, it made sense to why it was added. Of course, it came with Baby Frink, or Young Frink, whatever the hell he was called. But yeah, I just think it was scaled really weirdly, and it just didn't look right. And that's the main reason why it's number 9. No higher though. I don't despise it so much. At least I'm glad at least it's in the game. But yeah, I think it is just a bit scaled weirdly. Anyway, number 8 is the Springfield Destruction Derby Ground. Now, I kind of dislike putting this on the list because I actually really liked this at first. And the reason I liked this at first is it was big. You know, it was really big. It felt like it was the right size. It should be. You know, and although, yes, it has Homer's car on it, I didn't really I kind of negated that fact. I didn't mind. I was fine with the fact it had Homer's car in it. But on second kind of glance and thinking about it, it's not great, especially if you look here at this picture right here. It's actually, the building's not complete. There should be like a big sign and an audience, like some audience seats. The building's not complete. There should be more to it. And if they did do that, I don't think I would have hated it as much. But yeah, just on second kind of viewing, I think out of all the buildings we got, this definitely stands out as not great because of those reasons. Also, it's got Homer's car in it, and I was fine with it at first, but thinking about it, it does annoy me a little bit. I do get annoyed when there's like repeated assets in the game. But yeah, so that's the Derby Ground. I don't hate it loads, but just for the fact it's kind of incomplete is the main reason why it's on this list. Anyway, number 7 is the Springfield Swap Meet. So yeah, the Springfield Swap Meet. Now, this is like a bit difficult, and I feel like maybe some people might disagree with my one here, but I really dislike these kind of market stall buildings most of the time. There's a few like exceptions that I can think of. I forget the names or what they're exactly called, but there's a few I don't mind. But for the most part, I'm not a massive fan of them. Like, if you look at it, technically it's the wrong way anyway, because you would think that there would be like an alleyway in the middle where people could buy, but the kind of assets are flipped, so obviously in your town you can see them. It's just like things like that. They kind of annoy me. It's very, like, pedantic stuff. I honestly kind of feel like these should be maybe a decoration. I can understand, though, the argument that it should be a building because it does technically earn currency. So I do get that it maybe makes sense that it's a building. That's my opinion on it overall. It's not terrible. It's just meh, I guess. But I would say it's probably worse than the other buildings. But I think that's probably the last one out of the ones I don't hate. The next couple, so the next 6, I do hate to some degree. Starting with number 6, which is the Malibu Stacy Fan Club. A few of you may be wondering why I dislike this one, considering it's sort of a residential building, I guess. Now, the reason I hate this is, from what I can tell, this is not something that appears in the show. Well, it kind of is, but it's not really. Now, this is pretty much just a redesign of the Stacy Lovel's house, or the Malibu Stacy Dream House that we have in the game. Apart from the chimneys and the kind of tone, like the paint tone, the sort of shade of pink, and a few other like minor little details, it's pretty much the same building, like verbatim almost. Now, there is no other, or at least of what I can find. I looked on the wiki and I looked at the episode that Teenage Smithers appears in, or at least one of the episodes he appears in, and I could not find this Stacy's Dream House in The Simpsons. So as far as I can tell, this is a tapped out original building. Now, I wouldn't hate that too much, but the fact that it's essentially just a redesign, like a very lazy redesign of the Stacy Lovel's house. It's not like the original Brown house where it looks completely different and there's a cool animation and it makes sense within the story. This was just a premium thing thrown in there, just really tossed in there. So for that reason, I dislike this building. Now, if for any reason that this does appear in the show, I guess that would change my rating of it a little bit. So please do tell me if I have missed something, but from as far as I can tell, it doesn't appear in the show. It is a tapped out original, so yeah, for that reason, I kind of dislike it. So yeah, number 5 is Costmo. Okay, the first of the super premium buildings that we got in Black Friday. Now, the reason why I think this one is the lowest is because there is a benefit to getting this. You earn donuts. Now, the building itself doesn't look terrible. I don't think it, like, if we got this randomly in an update, for example, say that this was added in the Simpsons Babies update, or hell, it was just added in the Christmas update as a prize, it wouldn't even be on this list. And so for that reason, I think, it kind of, that's why it's not in the top 3, I'll say. The reason another reason why it's no higher than the other ones is because, of course, this one earns your donuts. And yeah, that's a benefit. Although it's ridiculously expensive, it's the most expensive out of the 3 actually, but you could theoretically earn your money back. It would take you a while, but you could theoretically earn your money back. Getting this would earn you donuts every 24 hours actually, I'm not sure, but I think it's 24 hours. Every 24 hours you get 3 donuts, I think, or is it 1 or is it 2 donuts? 2 or 3 donuts anyway. And yeah, so you could theoretically earn your money back. But do I think it's worth the price? No. If this was like £5, or like $10 or £10 or something like that, around that price range to get this, I wouldn't even put it on the list because I generally would believe that was worth it. Yes, you're buying, it costs real life money, but you're going to be able to earn that in the foreseeable future. The fact that it would take you a while to earn your money back is the reason why it's on the list, but the fact that it's possible you can is the reason it's not any higher, if that makes sense. Anyway, moving on. Number 4 is VHS Village. I honestly don't want to put this on the list in some ways because I love the look of it. I love these little quirky kind of buildings that don't make any sense, like the box factory. And the VHS Village is a perfect example of this because who the hell buys VHSs? There is absolutely no way a store could survive by selling VHSs. So it's kind of funny. I know that obviously this building appears in a earlier Simpsons episode, so when it's plausible that there would be such a place, but regardless, I find it kind of funny that you can have this in your town. And for that reason, I kind of don't want to put it on the list, but of course I kind of have to just because of the super premium price. Yeah. And I guess that's the only reason why it's not higher than the Babies Be This. But yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say about the VHS Village. So, of course, number 3, the top 3, is Babies Be This. Yeah, Babies Be This. So I guess the main reason why I think this one's the worst is there's no benefit to getting it, and I would say out of the look of this and VHS Village, I would say this one was the worst. Again, kind of superficial reasons, but yeah, it's just my opinion, I guess. They're all kind of somewhat in the same ranking, but they technically didn't come in a bundle, so I have to rank them differently. But I rank them together, so there you go. Babies Be This is number 3. So now we're in the top 3. Let's go to number 2, and number 2 is the Cthulhu Monument. Okay, so Cthulhu Monument. I wouldn't hate this so much if it was just a decoration that earned money. These used to exist, by the way. They used to be, obviously, in terms of if a decoration was added in an event that would earn event currency, after that event was over, that decoration would then just earn cash. So it is in kind of tapped out history that decorations do earn cash. So if they wanted the Cthulhu Monument to earn cash, that could have been fine. It could have just been a decoration that earned cash. But it's actually a building, which is very confusing to me because it's not even like the Hellfish Memorial, for example. The Hellfish Memorial technically has like a little kind of I guess keepsake underneath it, so it kind of makes sense why it's a building somewhat. It's loose, but you could argue. This just doesn't make any sense for why it's a building, so for that reason I have to kind of put it on the list. But it wouldn't be... Maybe it wouldn't have been higher if for this next factor. The next factor being, there was the Fogbury Cemetery was added, but that was added as a decoration, which makes no sense why they would add the Fogbury Cemetery as a decoration and add this as a building. It makes more sense for the Fogbury Cemetery to be a building because we have cemeteries already in the game, which earn cash. Also, the burial grounds that we have is a decoration that earns money. So I guess this is kind of like me bashing the Cthulhu Monument because the Fogbury Cemetery wasn't a building. Somewhat it is, but it, especially when it's released in the same update, you would expect them to be consistent, and yeah, it just felt like they should be it's the wrong way round. The Fogbury Cemetery should be a building, and this should be a decoration. So yeah, that's the main reason why I kind of dislike this one. I love the Cthulhu update, but I think this was the one bad thing in that update was the fact that this should have been a building. So it should have been a decoration and not a building. Yeah, so for that reason, the Cthulhu Monument is number 2. Anyway, now we're getting on to our number 1, so can we have that drum roll, please? Number 1 is Happy Little Elves Farm. Most of you probably would have known that this would have been number 1. Yeah, so Happy Little Elves Farm. Why is this number 1? Well, it falls slightly into the same category as the Cthulhu Monument. This should be a building for a starter. I'm sorry, this should be a decoration, not a building for a starter. But also it has some of the reasons, such as the fan club house. This is a tapped out exclusive building, so to speak. This is actually, like, some people were trying to scramble which episode this was from. It's not from an episode. It's actually from the launch trailer / the kind of intro to the game that we have. So if you remember the little clip you have at the start where Homer's playing the Happy Little Elves game, this is essentially just a, like a square patch of his tapped out within tapped out. So his little Happy Little Elves tapping game. This is a kind of screenshot of that, which is kind of crappy. It's a crappy prize for that reason. I wouldn't hate it so much, I guess, if it made sense and it tied in to the update, but it was just kind of thrown in because obviously it was, the whole mobile game thing. They were doing it was in the Game of Games update, so they just threw it in because it was from a mobile game. Yeah, if it was tied in better, I may not hate it as much, but I would probably still hate it a lot. And the fourth and final reason, the fourth and final reason is just kind of ugly, and it's very generic. We've got things like this in the game. We've got loads of them, these kind of little forest area things, and it's a very kind of generic building, if you want to call it a building. Yeah, so that is the reason. Those are the 4 reasons why I hate the Happy Little Elves farm. So yeah, that is the worst building of 2019 in my opinion. So anyway, guys, tell me your thoughts. Which buildings did you hate the most? Did you disagree with my pick? Maybe you did. And tell me why if you do. Maybe give me your top 3 or your top 5 or just your top 1 if you're too lazy or you can't think. And yeah, I shall see you next video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.